Hello and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial we'll create a parameterized FreeCAD model of the bush you see on the screen. This is a transparent view, so if we can just look at the front view of the bush, there's obviously an outer diameter, an inner diameter, and then there are these two recesses, one on each end, and then there's a helix groove that runs between the two recesses. Okay, so what you see on the right hand side of the screen is a LibreOffice spreadsheet. You can use Excel as well to type the name of the parameter. Make sure you don't have any spaces. If there is a space required, use an underscore. You're welcome to use this approach where the first letter of each word is a capital letter and then there's no spaces in between. And what you see on the right in column B are the values of these parameters. Okay, so the ID of the bush, that's obviously this diameter here, that's 10 millimeter. The OD is 20 millimeter. The length of the bush is 200 millimeter. The recess, this location of the recess, that's the distance from the edge here to where the recess starts. The length of the recess is obviously that length over there. Then the undercut of the recess, that's the distance from the ID of the recess, if you like, to the OD of the recess. That is the undercut. The diameter of the helix wire, that's the diameter that fits, if I can show it here, that fits into the helix. And then the pitch of the helix, that's obviously the distance between two subsequent helix, what do we call them, recesses. This distance over here, the distance between that center line and the distance and this center line. Okay, so let's start. So we will start a new document, and in the document we'll go to the spreadsheet workbench. We'll create a new spreadsheet, double click the spreadsheet. We can select and highlight our two columns and the applicable rows. Press Ctrl C, click in the spreadsheet in column A and press Ctrl V, and there our spreadsheet is then populated. Okay, all we now need to do is highlight these cells, right click, click on properties, display unit, and enter mm in the unit string. Okay, and the last thing we need to do is allocate an alias to each of these cells with the values in them. So what we can do is double click the name, Ctrl C, click in the cell with the value, right click, click properties, alias, click in the cell, and Ctrl V, enter. Okay, and I'm going to do the same for the remaining cells with the values in it. Okay, so with that done, we can save our FreeCAD document, give it a name. Yeah, I'm just going to call it recessed bush with today's date at the end. Right, and then for the spreadsheet we can rename that as well to recessed bush inputs. Right, so with that done, we can actually close our spreadsheet, go to the 3D view, go to part design workbench, create a body. In the body we create a sketch, and we can select the XY plane or any other plane, it doesn't matter. And what we're going to do is now draw the profile of the bush. Okay, the upper profile. So the upper half of the profile, obviously without the helix, but if I can trace it with my mouse, so we're going to draw that with the two recesses, straight line down here, another recess, right, and then we're going to revolve that around our vertical axis. So let's quickly do that. Okay, so I click create a polyline, and now I start with my sketch on. I'm going to do it on this line, on the vertical y-axis. Okay. It's quite okay. Okay, what I just want to point out is when you start the sketch, you can, with your middle mouse wheel, you can scroll in and out, and as you scroll in and out, the size of the window is indicated here at the bottom right. So it's a good idea to have it roughly the same size as the sketch we want to draw. Okay. Otherwise you need to scale your sketch as soon as you start adding dimensions. Alright. So there are some constraints, some vertical and horizontal constraints that was not activated here, so we can activate it afterwards. Click on that icon. Alright, over here the same. And then the horizontal lines, we want that. Okay, we want those horizontal. Then with the horizontal icon selected, if you click this vertex and that vertex, they are then also horizontally constrained, which is what we want, and we can do the same on this side. Okay. Now the other thing we want to do is the recess depth is the same, so we can click on equality constraint, click that line, scroll to this side, click that line. Now they are equal, and with the equality constraint active, we can click this line and this line, as well as the length. Okay, now that looks good. Alright, so now we can start to dimension our sketch. Let's put in a vertical distance between the origin and this vertex over here, and it will be recessed inputs, recessed bush inputs, ID bush. Remember to divide by 2 because we are specifying the radius here. Okay, and we can say okay to that. We can do the same. What you can notice now, you can scale your sketch. Just bring the things in proportion so that it will not deform the sketch as soon as you add another dimension. So fix a vertical distance, that vertex, this vertex. Okay, we go recessed bush inputs, OD bush divided by 2. And we can okay that. Right, so let's just right click and drag these dimensions out of the way. Okay, so our next dimension is, let's add that one. We go recessed bush inputs and locate recess. Okay, now we do this one. We go recessed bush inputs and we go length recess. We go okay, and then there's another vertical one, which is this one over here, and we can do recessed bush inputs and it's undercut recess. Okay, and now the last one we want is the length of the bush, and that's that line over there. So it's recess bush inputs and it is length bush. Okay, so with that done, once again we can just right click, drag these dimensions, sometimes, here we go, that's 5, and that one, there we go. Okay, so that's 2, this is 5, right. I think that's okay, that looks good. Sketch is fully constrained, so we can close that. With the sketch selected, we click on revolve a sketch, and we don't want the vertical sketch axis, so the drop down we select the base X axis, and that's what we want. Okay, now with that done, we can save our file, and all we now need to do is create the helix. Alright, so with the helix as shown here, a helix that has a significant pitch in compared to the diameter of the helix. A good way, and a way that works, is to is to first of all go to the, we want the recessed bush. Okay, first of all go to the part workbench, then click this icon over here, creation of parameterized geometric primitives. Okay, then the default is plain, but there's a drop down menu, and here you can see a helix. So we select the helix, and now we say create, because we want to parameterize these input values. So if we create it, close, then you can see the helix has been created, and now we double click the helix, and now we can parameterize these values. Right, so the pitch is recessed bushed inputs, and it's the pitch of the helix. The height is recessed bush inputs dot length bush plus, sorry, no, we want minus recessed bushed inputs. What we're trying to do now, I'll show it in a minute, in a little bit. Locate recess times 2 minus recess bushed inputs length recess. That's it. So we've got a length of 184. So let's okay that. The radius is obviously not right. I'll explain in a little bit. The length that we selected. Let's just fix the radius first. So it's recess bush inputs, and it is ID bush. That's the radius, so we need to divide by 2. Okay, right. So I'm not going to change the location and the rotation just yet. I'm not going to do that just yet. I'll do that in a minute. Let me just show you quickly. So we took the total to specify the length of the helix. We took the total length of the bush minus twice the location of the recess, so this distance over here, minus a single length of the recess. So what we in effect did is we got the length from the middle of this recess to the middle of that recess. That's what we calculated. Okay, and that's the length we want. Okay. Right, so in our document we now select the helix. We go to the part, I think we want to be there. We select the helix. We go to the part design workbench. There we go. And we click create a body. Now the helix is inside this body, and we can rename it to body helix. Okay. Alright, and what we then do is here at the bottom placement of this body, the first thing we do is we change the axis. It's not the Z axis, it is if you look at this coordinate system in the top right hand corner, so if we rotate about the y-axis, the y-axis is this green axis. If we rotate minus 90 degrees, then the helix will be correctly orientated. Okay, so let's try that. Obviously, if what you try doesn't work, you can change back to you can change and play around with it. Okay, so this body we can also rename. Let's just rename it. So this is body bush sorry, let's just try that again. Bush blank. Okay, and what we can do is make its appearance transparent so that we can see what we're busy with at the moment. Okay, alright, so we obviously need to shift the helix until its start is in the middle of this recess. Okay, so let's quickly do that. We can close this window. We go to body helix and we go to position. It's not the Z direction. It's not the Y direction. I think it's the X. Yes. Okay, so let us do the following. So we say it's the minus direction, so it's recessed bush inputs, locate recess. We have to add a minus sign here. Minus recess bush inputs, length bush divided by 2. Okay, so let's okay that. The white tick in the blue circle means we have to, sorry, I think I know what I did wrong. Let's just try and fix that quickly. It's not length bush, it is length recess divided by 2, minus 8 millimeters. That's better. Okay, so let's just recompute that. Yeah, now you can see my spiral is correctly orientated. Okay, so with that done, we now want to, let's unhide the origin. Okay, so we want to draw a sketch on this plane. Okay, if you so you can clearly see the spiral. This is where the spiral starts. So we want to draw a circle here and then create our spiral with that. Yes, okay, so I hope that's clear. So let's do that. We say create a sketch. Okay. Let's close this quickly. This sketch we can delete. So, yeah, so we can, if we, let's hide the origin again. It's important that you select the correct plane. Okay, so that's why I've unhidden the origin. I've made it visible. And I've selected the YZ plane because I know it's the right plane. I can see, if you zoom in here and you look carefully, you can actually see where the spiral starts. Okay, and we know it's on that plane. Okay, if we look at it from this angle, yes, there you can see. That's where it starts. Okay, so it's definitely this plane that I've selected here. I can say create a sketch. Okay, zoom in, and there we go. Okay, so we want the circle fixed to the in this case I think it's the Z axis, and so we want to constrain the diameter, and we say recessed, come on, click the blue icon, recessed bush inputs dot diameter helix wire, and we can say okay to that, and then we constrain horizontal distance between the origin and the center. We go to recess bush inputs, id bush divided by 2. Okay, because we're working with the radius in this case. And there you can see our sketch is now correctly orientated, okay, and placed and dimensioned. So we can close that, and now we scroll down. With the sketch selected, we press and hold Control, select the base feature, which is now the helix, and we click on this icon over here, sweep a selected sketch along a path or other profiles. Okay, so the object is sketch 1, the path to sweep along is the base feature. That's absolutely right, and this is the trick, this is the critical part. So in section orientation, you click on Frennet. Okay, and okay. Alright, and there is our helix now. Okay, and you can see it starts in the middle of this recess, it ends in the middle of that recess there. Okay, and so with body bush blank and body helix selected, we go to the part workbench and we say make a cut of the two shapes. Alright, if your cut doesn't come out correct, just select the cut, and here at the bottom, the base, it must be the bush blank body, and the tool that cuts is the body helix, as is the case with my with what you see on the screen. Okay, if that's not correct, then you will not. If that is swapped around, let me show you what happens. If this is the body helix and this is the come on. Body helix, and this is if the tool is the bush blank, okay, then what it looks like is something like this. Alright, so what you then have to do is swap these two around again. Okay, I'm just going to undo that. Undo it again. There we go. Okay, so the base must be the bush blank and the tool is the body helix. Right, so last thing we can do is go to part design again, and with the cut selected we click create a body, and now we can allocate a random color, and we can also change the appearance to make it transparent, and there you go. Let us just check to see if everything is working out correctly, if it's indeed parameterized. Okay, so I can close that. Let's change the ID of the bush to let's first change the audio of the bush. Give it a time to update. Okay, so let's make this 50. Let's make that 40. Okay, you can see it updated the OD. Let's see if it updates the ID as well. There you go. Yeah, any of these things, length of the recess, can make 20 millimeters. Yeah, everything works. The diameter of the helix we can make something like 5 if you like. Yeah, now it's a bit too big. It's a bit too big. Unless if you make the undercut of the recess maybe 3, that should work. There we go. Okay. And the pitch you can make longer now. You can make it 50. Yeah, so you can see it indeed. Well, you can. That's not going to work nicely. Here we go. So now we have a much bigger bush. Right, so you get the idea. Thank you for watching.